theoretically, a doctor should only prescribe medical cannabis if opioids failed. But what we've been seeing in a program, doctors can do whatever they want. So basically, they just prescribe cannabis before, because come on, the risk profile is incomparable. So basically, I think in the end, what we're going to see is when you look at different options, and if you're a patient, and then the doctor asks you, what do you prefer, opioids or cannabis? Come on, it's an easy pick.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome into our latest TDR Trade to Black podcast. Hope everybody's having a good Thanksgiving season. Today we're going to talk about some stuff overseas, the international market. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but France actually is the biggest illegal cannabis market in Europe. Were you aware of that? Well, we're going to be talking to somebody about what's going on in France and why they've taken so long really to adapt this whole medical market. But things are changing. So what are they? And why is everybody talking about France right now? So with that, let's get into it. Welcome in AV here on a Thanksgiving weekend. I wasn't aware that France is actually the biggest illegal cannabis market in Europe. I'm not sure if you are or not, but We've had those conversations with a few people overseas when we attended that event in Washington. What's it been now? 8 months since that happened?
Yeah, GCRS. I was not aware. Great country. I love going there. I was just there last year. Actually, my wife and I did a trip from Paris all the way down to the south of France.
That's nice.
But no, that would be news to me. I didn't smell it, see it. It was kind of, I guess, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
When I was there.
Well, a lot of people might say, like, why are we talking about France right now? Well, it's one of the most talked about European countries when we talk about this whole European angle in medical cannabis as more and more countries adopt this. And I do hear that their country is getting behind this, but the rollout has been a lot slower than what most people are anticipating. So why should we be paying attention to this? Well, with that, let's welcome in the president of the UNIVEC, Ludovic Rachou, for the first time to the podcast. We met you in person around 8 months ago, but good to meet you. And I assume you're based in Paris, France, correct?
Yes, correct. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, appreciate it. So as I said off the top, I was quite surprised. Maybe I don't want to say surprised, but France is indeed the biggest illegal cannabis market right now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, in Europe, definitely. And it's been like this for years. And I'm sorry you missed it when you were here, but I mean, you can smell it pretty much everywhere now. Even when I came up to my flat today, I just smelled it downstairs. So yeah, it's pretty common.
Yeah. So why do you think the whole medical program in France, where is it at right now? Before we get into that, actually, before we even get into that, I just want to tell people the UNIVEC is the French Cannabis Trade Association, which launched back in 2020, and it represents both international and domestic operators who are positioning themselves in France's emerging cannabis market. So for our viewers that don't know, what is emerging about this market right now, and why are so many people from Europe talking about really the medical market in France?
So I think if you look just at the demographics, I mean, France is the second biggest country in Europe after Germany. And if you look at it from potential point of view, as we said earlier, I mean, there's a huge legal market, but also in France there's something great when it comes to medical cannabis. It's called social security. I know it's a big word for the US, but basically that means that you get your medication for free. So when I go inside a pharmacy with a script in France, I don't pay anything. I just go out with my medication and without paying anything. So if you put that with medical cannabis, imagine the potential. And I think that's why it's one of the reasons, at least, why companies have been looking into the French space. So everything started back in 2020. And at that time, the parliament decided to launch a pilot program on medical cannabis. And because we're really French and we like to do complicated stuff, basically the goal of a program wasn't to see if medical cannabis was interesting for patients or anything. It was basically to see if the French healthcare system was compatible with medical cannabis.
Okay.
So it got a bit pushed back because of COVID. So it started in January 2021. And the goal was to have a limited number of patients, so about 3,000 in total. And to have them, it was supposed to last for 2 years. So this was in 2021. It's still ongoing, but it's about to end. So it's supposed to end in March 2026. So to be eligible in the program, you had to have one of the 5 medical conditions, let's say the biggest two conditions were basically neuropathic pain, which is a pretty wide condition, and epilepsy. So basically, the goal was to help patients that were sort of a last resort treatment, and medical cannabis was their sort of last and only option. And the product was prescribed in public hospitals in France. But you have to realize, and this is really different than the US, is because we have this whole healthcare system, going to a public hospital in France is pretty common. If you need to see a specialist, you go to a public hospital. It's free. You don't pay anything. I know that's weird, but that's the way it works. And that's the same for everyone. So that's how it started. And I think it was actually really useful to have this pilot program going on for so long, because now, I mean, we're in 2025 towards the end of the year, and we have something like 2,000 doctors that have been actually trained to prescribe medical cannabis over the years. And I mean, they've been discovering cannabis and saying, oh yeah, this actually works, you know? So they've been convinced. And I mean, everyone tends to forget, we talk about Germany here, Germany that. But when you look at Germany started in 2017. I mean, it took like a whole 7 years to sort of explode. So I think France is going to be opening up next year. But I think France is definitely set to become one of the biggest markets in the EU, and that's because of this sort of already 5 years of history with medical cannabis.
Right.
So from a medical practitioner perspective, is it safe to say that there's a consensus that medical marijuana works amongst French doctors, and they're not apprehensive to prescribing it to their patients?
Yeah, they used to, but now not anymore. I mean, we've seen really doctors like becoming advocates for medical cannabis. And especially, I mean, when you consider the alternatives, I mean, when you look at pain today, I mean, what do you have? Opioids? So what we've been seeing in a program, theoretically, a doctor should only prescribe medical cannabis if opioids failed. But what we've been seeing in a program is actually doctors can do. Wild. Yeah. I mean, doctors can do whatever they want. So basically, they just prescribe cannabis before, because I mean, come on, the risk profile is incomparable. So basically, I think in the end, it's what we're going to see is when you look at different options, and if you're a patient and then the doctor asks you, what do you prefer, opioids or cannabis? Come on, it's an easy pick.
Yeah, very much so.
Let's go opioids. Just kidding. Of course not. You said no one ever. Yeah. But when you look at 2,000 registered doctors, like how does that compare to Germany right now? Any idea?
I think in Germany, it's closer to the 20,000 mark. But I mean, in Germany, we've had like online doctors and clinics, and so on, and we can definitely see sort of a pushback now. So I think we have to look at the market and its specifics. So if you look at the German system, or the wider system in every country in Europe so far, is they went for a preparation status, a pharmaceutical preparation status, meaning that basically there's a pretty limited options in terms of format. So when you go to a pharmacy, you get either flowers or oils, and that's it, basically. Whereas in France, because it's a regular medication program and sort of status, you can do any format you want. Meaning, if you want to do vapes, you can do it. If you want to do suppositories, you can do it. If you want to do patches, if you want to do soft gels, capsules, I mean, whatever you can think of, you can do it. Of course, you're going to need to register the product with the authorities, but whether you do oil or whatever, it's going to be the same route. So,
are the companies that are currently there or coming into the market, are they all equipped to deploy those form factors into the market and give the patient base the optionality?
I think that's a really good question. I think compared to the German market, because it's our neighbor, I think it's going to be a smaller market at the start in terms of number of companies. Are going to be company that's going to be there. The reason behind this is going to be the cost of entry is going to be pretty high, because you have to fund the dossier to get the product authorized. We estimated somewhere to be between $50,000 to $100,000 to get one product registered. So way higher than what you would do in Germany, for instance. But once you get that license, I mean, your product can be prescribed, and theoretically it should be 100% reimbursed by Social Security.
Wow. Okay. So there is incentives. Do you see the same exporting opportunities as what you're seeing in Germany with Canadian companies applying to France as well?
I'm not so sure. The reason behind this is because flower is not authorized per se, but it can be authorized in a secured inhalation device with a cartridge. So I think the first company that actually gets a medical device registered, like an inhalation device, is going to be a huge win. And if you look at the companies that have participated in the pilot program so far, so for the first 2 years of a program, so the initial length of a program, so it was international suppliers that were giving out the product for free with a French local partner to distribute the product and handle relationship with doctors, etc. So as part of the suppliers, actually one company, which you probably know, was Canopy with stores in Bickle. So they supplied an inhaler at that time. So, and then in 2023, the authorities decided, okay, why not? We can do flower, but not in a unsecured format, because we don't want patients to manipulate like flowers. It's supposed to be a medication, not something you roll up and smoke. So they want a really pharmaceutical route. But when you look at it, it could be similar to a vape with a cartridge. So I think the first company that brings an actual flower cartridge on the market is going to be a huge winner.
So it's not going to be a flower market. There's no the doctors are not
for the time being.
Okay.
But I think same. I mean, look at Germany and what happened. I mean, if you look back in 2017, there were like less conditions, only specialists could prescribe, and I think the rules might evolve in the future. And I mean, if you're a politician right now, I mean, situation in Europe is complicated. Everyone's searching for money. So I mean, you have the biggest legal market. We have a big crime problem around this illegal market. I mean, there's a logic thread to pull here. So
within the French framework, is there anything analogous to, let's say, CanG and the pillar system, where it's medical is going to launch, and then it's ultimately, if the data provided is valid, leads to an adult use market years down the road?
It could be. The only difference would be on reimbursement. What I see as a possibility, let's say maybe in 5 years' time or 4 years' time, is flowers allowed but not reimbursed. So you can have your sort of paid medical market for flower, but then if you have a really serious condition, then you get your product reimbursed like through the normal pathway. And when you look at Germany, I mean, you still have a portion of the market which is currently reimbursed. But I think if you look at the European regulation, because there's an opportunity with the European Union to have a unified regulation in the future, I think the French model will probably inspire a few countries for a really strong medical route with reimbursement and a high level of evidence. And maybe on the side, then more of a medrec market with really good quality on the flowers and the product, traceability, etc. I think that's a pretty good option in the end to have sort of both systems.
How many people live in France?
70 million. So
70 million.
Yeah.
So what do you think once it's fully embraced? Like, what are we looking at as far as the total addressable market and the amount of medical patients that you think potentially could be registered here?
So I think it's going to be a pretty slow start. But the reason behind this is because the prescription rules are going to be limited at first. You need to get a first script at a hospital, and then it can be renewed by your GP. Meaning that for the first 2 years, I think it's going to be about 10,000 patients a year only. But you have to realize today, as part of a pilot program, so for the last 3 years, basically the products have been paid for by Social Security. And what Social Security has been paying to the suppliers is 18 cents. So this is euros, so about 22 cents, $20 per milligram of THC, okay, in an extract. So that's a pretty good price in the end. And for CBD, it's around 4 cents. This is euros of CBD, so somewhere around like 6 cents in dollars for a milligram of CBD. So when you look at the pricing, this is way higher than what you see in the rest of Europe. And I think this gives you a good idea of the potential of what a patient could bring in. So we've made estimates, and basically today a patient brings in, depending on what they're using and what's being prescribed, somewhere between 1,500 euros to 4,000 euros a year. So that's a pretty decent amount per person.
Right. We look at this pilot program, as you said, it's been extended till 2026. And when we look at the next 2 years, the amount of patients, you're saying it's limited to about 10,000. Why do you think the government, I guess, has been cautious towards this, given the size of the illegal market? And when you look at, is it just the history, the stigma as to what many governments across the world have endured? And it's just, for a lot of people, change can be a little bit cautionary when it comes to cannabis.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stigma, of course, in France because it's such a big illegal market. I mean, you also have to think how do you replace that sort of income for the people who are actually living off of it. So that's a real issue, and it needs to be addressed at some point. But also, if you look at it from a more political point of view, currently France is definitely conservative, but you can see a shift in the recent months around. Okay, we need to find some money, basically. So if there can be some taxes coming in, etc. And right now, I mean, we've had a few like big criminal cases around drug trafficking, etc. recently. And I mean, at some point, we have on paper one of the toughest crime and drug regulation in Europe. Is it working? Definitely no. So maybe it's going to be time for a change.
Yeah. Well, when we look at some of the I guess, investments that you're attracting as far as international companies, for those that don't know, but Curaleaf is involved, Aurora is involved, Canopy is involved, Village Farms is involved, which doesn't surprise me. These are some pretty reputable companies that obviously see something. Do you have conversations with a lot of these representatives from these companies? If so, like, what is their take on the France market right now?
I think everyone sees France as sort of the big opportunity, and I mean, because the seats are going to be limited at first. If you're here from the start, you're positioned to gain big. So everyone wants a piece of the market, and that's why in the last 6 months, we've seen all the big companies from North America come in.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've really seen the difference. Like over like 4 months, they all joined, which is a pretty interesting signal, I guess. But also these companies, I mean, you have to realize most of them had people on the ground before 2020, around 2020, 2021. They closed down shop, and now they're coming back. So I think it's a good sign that things are opening up. Is there going to be room for everyone? I'm not sure. So it's about the smarter companies making the right play.
70 million people.
How do you see the patients ramping over time? Like, is there a certain growth rate that you're looking at in terms of patient growth? And I mean, have you guys forecasted it out to the point of where it's like, this is where we hit like 1 million patients within the system? Because for instance, like I'm down in Florida, and I mean, we've got 1 million patients in the medical market currently, and our population is nowhere near what it is in France.
So I think if they go, it really depends on the prescription rules. So I think to be similar like to what Germany is currently experiencing, I think we need about 5 years. And so we have a big election coming up in 2027. And I think that cannabis is going to be a topic. So there could be a change sooner. Right now, political situation in France is really complicated. There's no majority in parliament. Everyone hates the president. So it's a bit of a weird one. I mean, we got
a lot in common.
We've had like 9 different governments over the last 3 years. So it's been crazy.
9 different governments over the last 3 years.
Yeah. It's been crazy. Some lasted for like 3 weeks. I mean, the current prime minister had this job for 3 weeks, resigned, and then was named again. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, there's always some uncertainty, but I hope 2027 will give us a good idea of which direction we're heading.
Well, we look at Germany and the growth, and I don't want to steer anything away from what you're doing there, but I think that's where we're going with this, is that we've seen exponential growth. What was there, Anthony? I think, how long's it been? About 1.5 years. There's around 250,000 registered patients, and that's to over close to 1 million now, if numbers are correct. And Germany's got 85 million people. So France isn't that far behind with 70. And you're always looking for growth and new market opportunities. And when you see foreign investment like Curaleaf, Village Farms, Canopy, Aurora, those are notable names. So how do you see, I guess, maybe some of that foreign investment shaping, I guess, the domestic cannabis ecosystem?
Well, I think there also might be opportunities in France on the cultivation side.
Mhm.
Okay.
The reason being, I mean, when you look at what's been happening in Portugal with sort of a crackdown on licenses, etc., I mean, France is sort of the toughest regulation. So if you manage to get your cultivation license or your GMP license in France, I mean, you're good to go. Nothing can happen to you. And when you look at France, we're in the middle of Europe. You have the UK, you have Germany, and this is all like you can deliver by road. So this is fairly
Yeah.
easy. I mean, we've got a tunnel to go to the UK. So imagine I can definitely see also some North American players like potentially investing in cultivation play or having partnerships with cultivation startups in France that want to get into the space. But yeah, I mean, apart from this, I think it's going to be how to capitalize on what they've been doing around in Germany and Poland, etc., and working a lot on doctor education, because in the end, it all depends on the number of prescribers. So, it's going to be how you can get doctors involved, how you can educate them as to why cannabis works and how it should be prescribed.
Yep.
And this is going to take a lot of education, but still, let's not forget we've been doing this for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Is France currently allowing the import of products, or is it all domestically cultivated, processed, and then brought into the channels?
So currently you can't cultivate
Okay, so
until
it's
the
all import.
regulation comes through. So you can do R&D basically, so you can work on your cultivation process. But as soon as we switch from the pilot program to generalization, then you can
Mhm.
import, export, do whatever you want,
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
cultivate locally. It's hard to get a license, but once you do, there's
Mhm.
no way in hell what happened in Portugal is going to happen to France.
Got it.
Do you see, I guess, Europe moving towards like a more harmonized cannabis framework, or do you think a lot of countries or most countries will create their own path?
I think if you look at the European regulations, so until recently, health wasn't an aspect where we had common regulation in the EU. This changed recently, and we have the European Medical Medicines Agency working on this common framework. The issue that we see in Europe currently is that out of the 25 countries that have a framework on medical cannabis, 24 have a preparation status. And the problem with preparations is that it's a local status. Depending on the country you're in, it's going to be completely different. Whereas what the French framework is basically using the European framework to get a product authorized. And then
Yep.
just basically the only thing which is different is that you don't need to submit clinical data on your product, but you need to
Gotcha.
do the quality, the literature review, et cetera, et cetera. But they're using the same, what we call it, the CTD format for the drug authorization dossier, which means that theoretically this format can be replicated in each and every country. It's already ready. So this is completely different than what's happening on the preparation side.
So if we're sitting down here in 2030 having the same conversation, what does France look like and what does Europe look like as far as the medical, I don't even want to say medical, but the overall cannabis market across Europe?
Well, I think if you just look at the demographics and the history with France with cannabis, I mean, France by
Yeah.
2030 could definitely be the biggest market. I don't know if it's going to be a state-controlled market if it becomes legal for adult use. It could be. It's one of the options. I mean, every year we see that law coming up in Parliament and trying to be discussed. So that could be a model. But yeah, 2030 is definitely the year that potentially France could overthrow Germany. I'd like that.
Yeah.
Well, you can understand. I know a lot of investors look at companies like Village, Canopy, especially Curaleaf and Aurora about, coming online, seeing markets, what are the upside potentials? And this is where we like to dig into the European markets and see some of these countries that are coming online now and growing and see what the growth trajectory looks like over the next couple of years. But you can understand, I think the key takeaway, I think, Anthony, when we were over in Washington last March, is that it is medical first, and it seems like a lot of countries are getting behind. So once you have that kind of clarity and transparency, you walk before you run. You can understand that this is going to be a big opportunity for some of these companies that already have a footprint over there, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And I think something which is a pretty good sign that things are moving is, this year I'm going to be at MJ Biz, and I've received like so many requests to
Nice.
meet up and ask about France and what's going on. which 2 years ago, like France, I mean, what the hell is this country? So I think we can definitely see a difference. And I mean, all the names you mentioned, I mean, we've been having a discussion with all of these folks. And I mean, you really see that they want to contribute and be the first on the market. So I'm curious to see as to who wins. But I think that people that have either a lot of cash on hand will probably be the winners, or that have been smart with their money as well.
Yeah, I see that. Village Farms. Where's the best French restaurant in Vegas? Do you know?
Good one.
Vegas?
We will be there. So hopefully we run into each other. But all in all, it's good. It's encouraging. And I like to, I guess, learn more. And I hope our viewers get some good insight too, because again, when we have these conversations with a lot of the companies here that are looking for opportunities overseas, it was a big eye opener for me when I was in Germany at Mary Jane last June as to how big that conference was and the amount of optimism that's created around that whole continent, you know, involving Europe. And look, we want this to move and grow. And that's the whole point of, you know, why we do what we do, right?
Definitely. And I think it's funny because, you know, there was once Cannabis Europa conference in Paris. I think it was back in 2018 or 2019. And this then it completely stopped. So we're doing a new edition on the 19th of February with the Cannabis Europa guys in Paris, so new Cannabis Europa Paris. And I think it's definitely a good thing, a good signal that things are moving forward.
Good.
So if you're around, I mean, it would be great to have you there.
Don't have to twist my arm to go to Paris. I love Paris.
We're going to ICBC back to Germany in April, so maybe that's something that could be arranged. But yeah, it'd be nice to do a podcast in Paris, wouldn't it be, Anthony?
That would be great.
Yeah, you don't have to persuade me.
You brought up the English Channel in the tunnel. How long is that? Is it 65?
It's 2 hours and 10 minutes. Yeah.
Is it
Paris to London? Yeah, and you just walk on the train and just walk off, and that's it.
Can you drive through it? Car?
Or you can drive. So you can take your car to the tunnel, put your car on the train, and then go out with your car at the other end. So it's like then the tunnel ride is like 20 minutes, I guess. So it's really, really short.
Wow.
You can drive to London in about 4 hours from Paris. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you ever see, Anthony, online, the construction of that? That was wild. How they put that
I've been on it. It's crazy. The channel. Yeah.
So it takes 20 minutes to go through, you said, by train. So how fast are you going?
Like 220 or something.
Wow.
Yeah, nice. we got fast trains. We don't have cannabis everywhere, but we've got fast trains.
We've got no trains over here. Rail's the best part about going to Europe.
That's another podcast idea. We need to do a podcast going 220 kilometers an hour through a tunnel. That would be incredible. Listen, always good catching up with you. Hope to see you in Vegas, but I appreciate the insight and direction and education on France as a whole. But onwards and upwards, and looks like there is encouraging sign about how this is a future market that many international companies are really focusing on it, and we can understand why. But 70 million people, and nice to see countries of that size starting to embrace slowly but surely. But you can see the next 5 years why France is getting a lot of attention and interest towards not only in Europe but across the world as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, thanks for having me and putting the spotlight on the country. I think it's really important that people get to know France and educate themselves on the French system. I mean, there's a lot more I could tell you about how the healthcare system works, etc. And I think it's a completely different framework and mentality than what we've seen in the States so far. So yeah,
all right,
looks good for the future.
Yeah, let's keep in touch. We'll have more of these conversations moving forward as we start to profile more and more about the European market. We're going to make an effort of doing this every single week. But most importantly, let's keep in touch and appreciate the feedback, okay?
Thank you, guys.
All right, take care. Hey everyone, thanks again for watching here today. Listen, if you're getting value from us here at TDR, make sure to check us out at TDR Plus. It's our exclusive membership community. Why? Well, you'll see CEO interviews that go beyond business, showing a personal side that you won't find anywhere else, including the biggest names in the industry. Plus, you'll get insights from analysts and day traders on where the industry's headed, both short-term and long-term, and a direct chat group with our team. It's only $7 a month, just 25 cents a day, and it helps support support everything we do here at TDR. If you want to join, just click the join button below and become a TDR Plus member today. And once again, a big thank you for being part of our community. So that's it for today. And again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.